Mother Brain? It can't be.
Huh? What are you doing here?
I'm a bounty hunter. If the situation were left alone, galactic society would be put in peril.
What do you know, Perp?
Might the furious MB attack the Galactic Federation?
That's right. It won't be long before I, beautiful goddess that I am, become queen.
Only special brains have the genetic coding to become queens.
Of course, my little princess. I'm not only the most beautiful brain in the world, I'm the cleverest.
There's only one person who calls me princess. You don't.
I apologize for my rude behavior. Princess Pinhead, I advise you to turn back while you still can.
Impossible. I've got to destroy MB.
One human alone could never beat me.
I landed on Zebes alone and exterminated both the space pirates and the Metroids.
Are you kidding? I'll deal with you myself.
Foolish plan.
You'll never stop me.
Mother. Time to...
You want to kind of shut up? I'm surrounded with protective glass. What? Whatever. I'll show you what happens to little weasels who get in my way. I am the supreme ruler of... It's giving me a headache. I'll get you yet when I'm through with you. You'll be... my brain cells. Knock it off. Stop that. Get me out of here. Somebody help. No. Metroid, sweet Metroid.
Romeo Brain, oh, Romeo Brain. Wherefore art thou, Romeo Brain?
I'm an eggplant.